Good morning. Let us consider another topic, stress strain diagram or stress strain curve. We have discussed stress, and depends upon the nature of the force or load subjected. Stress can be tensile stress or compressive stress. Also we discussed strain, lateral strain, longitudinal strain, and also we learnt the elastic limit, Young's modulus. Based on the concept we learnt, we solved some numerical problem. In engineering practice, every material's behavior can be assessed based on the curve called as the stress strain curve or stress strain diagram. I can say it is a tool to assess the behavior of the material in the form of stress strain graph or curve diagram. Here in strength of material and the entire engineering practice, we are going to use this as a tool to understand the behavior and to decide the the strength of the material which we involve. For our understanding purpose, let us consider a stress strain graph. For a ductile material such as the mild steel, so we consider strain along abscissa and stress along ordinate. You can see here a linear portion of the curve up to certain limit. Something like this. So we can mark various salient points, namely O origin, P, then point A, then point B, C, D, then E, and lastly point F. So it is possible to obtain stress versus stress strain relationship on any material. If a material is subjected to gradually applied load during testing, we can measure or we can obtain stress when material subjected to gradually applied load P, and knowing the cross sectional area of the material, we can obtain stress. Corresponding to this applied load, we can also record the change in dimension. Say for example, if a material is subjected to an axially applied, gradually applied load, the stress will develop because of the applied load P and the original cross sectional area, and there is the change in length, and knowing the original length we can obtain strain. For every increment of loading we can obtain stress and their corresponding strain. So, this type of incremental stress and strain corresponding to the applied load can be obtained for the entire test process, commencing from the specified value till specimen fails. Knowing the sets of load and corresponding strain, one can easily plot the curve known as stress strain curve, and it will give the relationship between stress and strain. It is possible to obtain this stress and strain curve for any given material or for any given required material. Consider for analysis and for application purpose. Figure shows a typical stress strain curve obtained by conducting tension test on ductile material, namely mild steel. So, this is a typical stress strain diagram or curve for a ductile material such as mild steel. We can see here the various points which you have marked: origin as O, P, A, B, C, D, E, F. So, each points can be represented based on our previous discussions. As per our the Hooke's law which we discussed, it is the general statement for every elastic material. It states that stress is proportional to strain up to the proportional limit. You can see here, we can see a linear portion between O and P. Here the portion of the curve between O and P obeys Hooke's law. Stress is proportional to strain and it is a linear portion. Hence, point P is known as proportionality limit, and stress corresponding to point P is known as elastic limit. Point A, you can see point P to point A, you can see a slight variation in linear portion of the curve. It attains a curved portion. Point A indicates elastic limit. For all practical purpose, it is very difficult to identify between the proportional limit and elastic limit. Even after attaining proportional limit, material still possess elasticity. As material retains its elasticity, the curve takes shape like this. So, we can say it is, though it is difficult to distinguish between proportional limit and elastic limit. So, theoretically we can say it is proportional limit and this is elastic limit, because still material possess still some more elasticity, hence it shake like this. Then we can see here again sudden downward trend in the curve from A to B. Point B is known as the healed point. Healed point, when compared to point C, point B is at a higher level. Accordingly, we can designate point B as upper yield point. Yielding means upon the application of load, the material start yielding. Yielding for the load means there is started changing their shape and size without much resistance. Without much resistance, the material started the yielding against the load, showing not much deformation against the load. That indicates yielding. Yielding means we can say it is less resistance or practically zero resistance, we can say sometimes. That is called as yield, the meaning of yield. As point B is little higher than C, it is called as upper yield point, and C is called as lower yield point. So, because of the applied load, there is much resistance here, then CD is called as yield range. So, you can see here, without appreciable increase in the stress, there is continuous increase in the strain between C and D. So this CD is called as the CD is yield range. Then between D and E there is considerable increase in the stress and strain, but it is not linear portion. So there is a curved portion. Again between E and F there is a lowering of the curved portion, that is there is decrease in the stress with the increase in the strain. So accordingly we can also designate some of the points here in the stress diagram. So here this portion we can call it as elastic zone. And so the portion from elastic point to the last point can be designated as like this. This can be designated as plastic zone. Plastic zone, and we can call this portion between A and E as which is called as strain hardening. And portion between E and F is called as necking zone. Based on the salient points we can designate the points. Point P is known as the proportional limit, the stress corresponding to point P is known as elastic limit. B is known as upper yield point and C is known as lower yield point. CD is the yield range. Stress corresponding to the range CD is known as yield stress. Point E is known as the ultimate point or maximum point, and the stress corresponding to point E is known as ultimate stress or maximum stress. Lastly, point F represents the breaking point, or this stress corresponding to this called as breaking stress or failure stress. You can see here portion OP is a linear, stress corresponding to this is known as the stress is proportional to strain. Let us recall the Young's modulus definition. For every elastic material, the ratio of stress to the corresponding strain remains constant up to the elastic limit of the given material. This is known as Young's modulus. This ratio, this constant ratio is known as Young's modulus. Hence, we can easily find out on this linear portion this Young's modulus. Say this is called as dy and this is called as dx. Rise and the range divided by this rise and this range divided is called, gives us the Young's modulus. So this is another way. So Young's modulus can be calculated on the linear portion of the curve. Next, if we have marked here, so this OP vertical range is called as elastic zone. So here up to from point O to B, it is the material obeys Hooke's law. Stress is proportional to strain. You can see here between A and D it is marked as strain hardening. Here with the increase in stress and the materials after passing elastic limit, materials becomes harder because of this plastic deformation, and this process is known as strain hardening, and under this condition it is difficult to break the material. Hence, the material shows this trend. Stress at ultimate point is more than the stresses proportional limit and elastic limit. This is because of the material become harder because of the strain hardening, that is by due to the plastic deformation. Next, between E and F we can see here there is an increase in strength with the increase in the strain. This is because the formation of neck on the specimen. At the time of failure, there is decrease, the smaller value of stress compared to the ultimate point indicates its formation of neck, and at the time of failure materials fails with a smaller load than the ultimate load point. So, to conduct a tension test on mild spill specimen, we use the specimen like this. So, usually the mild spill specimen have the grips on the edges, and this grip is to fix the specimen in the universal testing mission for proper gripping, so that it will hold the specimen properly against sliding. And also, so we mark 2 points on the usually middle portion of the specimen, and those points, the distance between those 2 points marked on the specimen is known as the gauge length. Gauge length is the length over which we are going to measure the change in length and change in diameter. That is usually carried out before a specimen, before conducting test and after conducting test. Even during the test also we can record the change in length and change in diameter of the specimen. As the test progresses, there is the decrease in the diameter of the specimen, usually at the middle portion or on the gauge length marked portion. So, this portion we can see here there is a reduction in the diameter. Somewhere it is in the, need not be at the middle, it is to the left right hand side, close to the right hand side of the point marked or left hand side. The portion it is called as the necking portion. Or neck portion. Still, if you apply load on this neck formed the specimen, after failure of the specimen, we can it resembles like this. So, at the time of failure, one can easily observe the cup and cone arrangement. After failure, if you carefully observe the specimen, so one side of the failed specimen resembles the cup, the other side of the specimen resembles the cone, that is at the neck portion. So these process we can identify during the conduction of the test. This is because so relatively lesser load at F compared to E because of the formation of neck. When material started forming the neck, so load required to is smaller than the strain. With the increase in strain, there is decrease in the stress. Finally, load required to fail the specimen is relatively smaller than the ultimate load like this. This is because of the formation of neck, and finally the failed specimen will resemble like this, resembling a cup and cone arrangements. This diagram is for the mild steel, typical stress strain diagram. If you conduct a test on the mild steel and plot the stress versus strain relations, it almost resembles the same, need not be the same, it is a theoretical stress strain diagram, typical one. Slight variations there, it is acceptable. In the same way, if you plot a stress strain diagram for different materials, the diagram will be like this. So one we already done for this mild steel, it is a ductile material, it may take shape like this. This is for mild steel. And this curve for high carbon steel. And this curve represents for nickel carbon steel. And one more curve we can draw, it is this is for cast iron. If you draw a curve for concrete, again it shows like this, for this is for concrete. Even if you draw stress strain curve for aluminum, it resembles like this. So these are the various stress versus strain relationships for materials. High carbon steel possesses higher the peak. Next, nickel carbon again possesses higher peak, higher stress and higher strength. Then this is the mild steel which we already drawn. Next, cast iron, it is a brittle material. Then concrete, again it is a brittle material. Again here aluminum, though it is not a brittle material, it does not possess resistance against the deformation. So likewise we can have the stress versus strain relationships for all the materials. Some of the stresses we can mention here is, we have mentioned here, it is proportional limit. The stress corresponding to P is known as elastic limit, and stress corresponding to this P is also known as the working stress, safe stress, allowable stress, so on. It is called as working stress. We can work with this material at this level. So up to this level we can work with this material, means we can make use of this material for analysis and design purpose. It is a safe stress. If you use this material up to this level, it is a safe for design considerations. Again, it is allowable, it is permitted, it is allowed to consider this material up to this level. Allowable stress can also be called as permissible stress. Allowable stress can also be called as permissible stress. Next, it is yield stress. Yield stress is the stress at which the material will undergo continuous deformation without appreciable increase in the stress, or at a practically constant stress. We have discussed this is B point is the upper yield point, C is the lower yield point, and CD range is known as the yield range, and the stress corresponding to CD is known as yield stress. It is the stress, CD is the yield stress is the stress at which the material undergoes continuous deformation, undergoes continuous strain without appreciable increase in the stress, or at a practical constant stress. Yield stress can be obtained by knowing the yield load divided by the original cross-sectional area of the specimen. Knowing the yield load and the original cross-sectional area of the specimen, we can calculate a yield stress. Next, it is the working stress, and it can be designated as Fw, and this can be designated as Fy. Working stress is the stress at which the material still retains its elasticity. So working stress can be obtained by knowing the yield stress or ultimate stress. Depends upon the type of material, we can calculate working stress. If the material is a ductile material, working stress is equal to working stress comma Fw is equal to yield stress divided by factor of safety. This is for ductile material. Also, working stress Fw is equal to ultimate stress divided by factor of safety. So, this type of stress strain behavior, or in other words, identification of yield point cannot be possible in case of brittle materials such as cast iron or concrete, something like that. There, to find out the working stress is not possible. Under such circumstance, we use the ultimate stress to find out the working stress. Working stress is equal to ultimate stress divided by factor of safety. For ductile material, since it is possible to identify to locate the yield point, we can find out the working stress for ductile material by using this relation. Then what is factor of safety? Factor of safety and it is denoted by F. This again we have discussed in the first class itself. For every given material or for any given material structure, the actual strength of the structure is more than the required strength. So this ratio of actual strength by the required strength is known as factor of safety. Factor of safety is a mere number. It is defined as the ratio of working stress by yield stress. For every given material, working stress is much smaller than the yield stress. So factor of safety is equal to, it's a mere number, factor of safety is equal to yield stress divided by working stress. So this is for ductile material. Similarly, for again factor of safety is equal to ultimate stress divided by the working stress. So this is for brittle material. From safety point of view, we arrived this term is factor of safety. It is a mere number. It can be obtained by using this yield stress or ultimate stress along with this working stress. So likewise, we can proceed with this yield stress and the working stress. Here, based on this stress strain diagram and stress strain curve, you are expected to come out with the idea how to calculate the stress, how to calculate elastic limit or Young's modulus, how to calculate the strain, the ultimate stress, then the percentage of elongation of the specimen after conduction of test, the percentage reduction in the cross sectional area, and also sometimes it is expected from the students that the actual stress or the true stress. Here for all the portions to calculate elastic limit, yield stress, ultimate stress, we use original cross sectional area of specimen. Load divided by the original cross sectional area of specimen gives us the proportional limit. Load at proportional limit or load at yield point or load at ultimate point divided by the original cross sectional area gives us the stresses. Here if you calculate the stress, breaking stress or failure stress by using the original cross sectional area, it is an apparent one. If you use the final cross sectional area at the time of the break after formation of this neck, and that is called as true breaking stress or final breaking stress. So like this you can work out numerical problems that we will take up in the next class based on this the stress strain relationship.